Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Fightful Wrestling Weekly, brought to you by the folks over at Fightful.com. I am Nick. Tim, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Not bad. It was a kind of uneventful day for me today.
Yeah, very uneventful week of wrestling. Just had kind of things happen, nothing too big.
True.
But if you go back to Sunday, we saw a familiar face in Muhammad Hassan come back. No, not Sunday. Last Friday, a week ago.
Yeah. So
Muhammad Hassan.
Sean wrote about this.
Take it away, Tim. Jeez.
You had something to say?
No, I was going to say, let's hear what Sean had to say about Muhammad Hassan.
All right. He said Muhammad Hassan, real name Mark. I hope I say this right. Kopani. I never know if I say guys' last names right. Wrestled his first match in only 13 years last weekend against Papadon. I've spoken at length about my interviews with him, and I'll quickly admit that based on the conversations I had with him, I was really surprised to see him return to the ring. He looked in great shape, especially for a 38-year-old former pro wrestler. Wrestler turned educator. He's a teacher now.
Principal.
He's principal. I didn't know.
I believe so.
Oh.
No, he's a teacher.
He hadn't competed in any matches since WWE killed him off back in 2004 during a program with The Undertaker. Sean goes on to write that I reached out to Kopani after the match happened, and he told me that he thought the match was a lot of fun, and the two were went nice and slow. He said that I lost my spot. Okay, he said that he thought he'd wake up more banged up than he actually was. He ended up feeling great the next day. He's also considering taking the occasional match and wrestling dates, but noted that he wasn't intending on going back on a full-time weekend warrior mode anytime soon. It's worth noting that WWE has abandoned the Muhammad Hassan trademark back in 2006, so it's free for him to use if he does choose to do so. So if he wants to get that Muhammad Hassan name, legally he can.
I think it would be great. I'd love to see him back. I would love to see him back. He just seems like the kind of guy that, you'd see him come back and you'd be genuinely happy to see him wrestling.
Because it's
I think that's
shock.
That's awesome.
It's like, whoa,
yeah.
Wait, I didn't expect any, what? Huh?
Exactly. And there's probably a healthy amount of people that are like, oh, Muhammad Hassan, that sounds familiar. I don't really know who that is. But regardless, he's going to be a great name for anyone to pick up. I think that's going to be awesome. I hope to see him wrestle some shows.
He's that name that you forget about until you're scrolling through Twitter one day and it goes, 13 years ago today in WWE, this happened with Muhammad. And it's like, he's that guy you forget about until you accidentally see him on your Twitter timeline. And it's
exactly.
like, well, what's that guy up to? So then you Google him and you see, oh, wait, he just wrestled? And so if he's got the occasional once a month or once every other month or something, keep himself, like, he doesn't have to go out there and, like he said, doesn't have to go out there and be a weekend warrior and wrestle all the time. But as long as he can keep his name out there and be somewhat relevant, then hell, why not?
Absolutely. And speaking of Muhammad Hassan and that independent wrestling scene, did you know that Muhammad Hassan, I believe was his first interview in like 13 years was with Sean Ross Sapp?
Yeah, I believe so.
And you know who else Sean Ross Sapp interviewed?
Who?
Probably one of my favorite independent wrestlers in the world today. I mean, this person beats out the Bucks. This person beats out Will Ospreay. This person beats out Marty Scurll. This person beats out Okada, Naito. Do you know who it is?
Are you talking about Jordynne Grace?
I'm talking about Thick Mama Pump. I love her to death. She's
Thick
one of my
Mama Pump.
She's one of my favorite professional wrestlers. She's super fun in the ring. She's super good on the mic, and she's extremely funny on Twitter. We're going to send you over to a great interview that Sean Ross Sapp did with her. Check it out, guys.
I am interested in your case for the bear hug in 2018. You are bringing it back.
That's real. Okay, so have you seen Parks and Recreation?
I have.
Okay, so do you remember the scene where Ron puts the guy in a bear hug and he passes out?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well there's my case right there. That's real.
Oh, my wife is such a big Parks and Rec fan. She came and got me when that scene aired. When she rewatched it a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago actually, she was like, "This guy just did a bear hug," and I was like, "Ah, man." I have been anti-bear hug, and then I saw that you were bringing it back. And you've got a following of bear hug supporters at that.
Yeah, I mean, I've I've won a lot of matches with it so far. I even won a battle royal with it.
You won a battle royal with a bear hug.
Yeah, I won a battle with a royal with the bear hug. It was me and another girl, and we were on the apron, and I put her in a bear hug, and she passed out, and I dropped her to the ground, and that's how I won.
Fantastic. That is a creative finish. I like that.
Yeah, thank you.
I saw in looking up some of your history was like, well, at least your documented matches. Ember Moon among the first. I think you were maybe 17, 16 when you faced her. Of course, she had a history and reality of wrestling too. Was that a person back then you kind of knew like, whoa, this girl's going to be something?
I didn't know like a ton about her back then. I think I might have been 15 the very first time I wrestled her.
Wow.
And I only wrestled her one time, and I wasn't like really big on my history of people back then.
So like you're that age. Is it tough to get bookings when you were doing that, or did you have like a home promotion that you would rely on for such?
It wasn't hard to get bookings because like back then, clearly I was working for really, really cheap. So
Yeah.
I was booked every weekend, and unfortunately I was one of those girls that was working for like $25 and a hot dog back then.
So when you do that, how do you go about traveling? Were you driving at that point?
I usually carpooled with like at least 5 people. And no, I wasn't driving yet.
I was gonna say, like, is that a situation where you're gonna be like, Mom, I got some bookings this weekend. Let's hit the road.
Yeah, normally, and I had to like get. It was a whole thing. I had to get my homework done before the weekend. It wasn't like I could wait till Sunday night because normally I had a Sunday night show. Like, yeah, it was really hard to work around back then.
So you're in this unique position where even though you're 22 years old, you're a ring veteran. You've been around for a while. How do you handle that? How do you go about deciding what bookings you're going to take, which ones you're going to pass on? Do some people that have maybe booked you in the past and you have good relationships with take precedence over maybe even a better offer that might come your way?
Honestly, the people that I used to work with, which was mostly in Texas and kind of the Midwest, like they have it. They think that I'm going to work for the same thing now that I was working for back then, and that's not the case. And they kind of get like a little bit like a bitchy about it, because they're like, oh well, why can't you work for this now if you were working for it back then? And I'm like, well, I think I'm a little bit more experienced, and I have a little bit more of a following now than I did back then.
And if you guys want to see the full interview, head over to Fightful.com. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about Starrcast and their podcast row and just how crazy it is, in my opinion. So Tim's going to take the article. I'm going to take the hot take on it.
So if you're not aware what Starrcast is basically something they're doing in conjunction with All In this September. And it's like, I don't know if it's the day before or 2 days before. I can't remember the exact date of it.
It's like a whole convention, though. That's
basically,
the thing.
And they're asking podcasters to come and interview the wrestlers. And so Sean writes, having a podcast booth at All In's Starrcast will cost between $499 to $599, depending on how far ahead you book it. All In is making an effort to have their event be a weekend spectacular and has brought on the likes of Dave Meltzer, Bruce Pritchard, Diamond Dallas Page, Eric Bischoff, Cole Cabana, Sean Waltman, J.J. Dillon, and several others to bolster their live stage podcasters. The Podcast Row package gives buyers at least one interview before the event. You
don't know who it's with. You don't know who it's with. You just get an interview.
2 during the event, and a spot in the media area covering the show. There are questions about ethics and paying that should probably be reserved to closer to showtime, but ultimately this is where you can blur the lines between sports and entertainment coverage.
Now, look, I understand you need to make money for this. You need to make money out of this huge, enormous event. It's not cheap to rent out these places. It's not cheap to rent out hotels upon hotels. I understand that. I want to know, guys like Dave Meltzer, DDP, all the other names that he announced, Eric Bischoff, are those guys paying the $4.99 to $5.99 fees? No, you know who has to pay those $4.99 fees? actual guys like us at Pro Wrestling Limited or the guys over at Fightful who are not just going to sneak their way in for free because of their name, because of their popularity. They're not going to get that. So we're going to have to pay money to go. And if we pay money to go, you're going to bet we're going to want to talk to guys like Cody Rhodes, the Bucks, Marty Scurll, the big names. But who knows who we can get? We might just get Jay Lethal. No disrespect to Jay Lethal. I love you and your work ethic. But when it comes to the potential of getting an interview, you're probably going thinking, oh, I'm going to interview the fucking guys from the Bullet Club. You know, I'm going to take off from this. This is going to be huge. For $499 plus your flight.
Yeah.
That's insane. It's not fair because that show, that podcast show is going to be full of marks. It's going to be full of fans who clearly paid, so they're going to sit there and they're going to be major fans. And you're not going to get debates or criticisms. You're going to get, oh, Cody, this is great, or Bucks, this is great, this is fantastic, I'm having such a good time. You're not going to get anything important out of them. You're just going to praise them. You can do that here. You can do that on Twitter. Or are you paying $499 to go over there and praise them when you can do something big? You can do something like maybe find a flaw in it. You can do something like say, hey, you know what? I don't really want to pay $499. Here's why. That's not right to me. Why would you pay $499 to fly to, where is it? Chicago? I get it. Chicago's big. Hell, CM Punk might even be there. I understand that.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, we all know what that podcast row is going to be. It's not going to be like a typical podcast row like you see in the NFL during draft time or the MLB during draft time. It's going to be a bunch of fans talking to their favorite wrestlers. And I get, you know what? That's great. Congratulations. If you're paying that much, congratulations for getting that. I applaud you. But personally, I wouldn't do that. Personally, I don't think it's fair. Personally, I don't think it's right. But I understand the reasoning behind it. I was very, very excited to go. I had plans of going. I didn't know that it was going to be $4.99 up to $5.99.
Just thinking about it as a business move,
it's just not smart.
Worth it. Because,
jeez,
Nick over there dropping
my
stuff.
My hot take got a little too hot there.
Anyways, I don't think it's right as a business move because A, you got to pay the $400 to $500, $600 or whatever. Then, like you said, you got to pay your flight and your food while you're there and your travel to get around. And in the end, you're going to be spending, just if you're one person going, not counting, say, you have a two-man crew or something like that going.
Or a two-man show,
as
some would say.
Yeah, I get it. But it's not like you're going to easily spend $1,000 and then you're going to hope you make that back off of that one or two. Well, you're guaranteed 3 interviews.
Mm-hmm.
At least 1 before the event, 2 during, and then you can be in the media coverage area afterwards.
In which, that's awesome to be able to be part of that media coverage, to talk to those wrestlers. That people may talk to wrestlers that I may never get the chance to talk to, but I'm okay with not losing out on that much money for that event. I just think it's not right to me, and that's just me. You were entitled to your, but what do you guys?
Right.
What do you guys think? Guys that are listening over on the Fightful.com, guys that are listening right here on Pro Wrestling Limited on YouTube, what do you guys think? Honestly, I want to know.
Because my whole thing is like, you spend at least $1,000 to go to the show, go do these interviews and all that, and then you just hope you make it back up in views and revenue and all that.
Yeah,
excuse me.
I mean it's.
So I mean,
it's business. I understand that it's business. You got to spend money to make money sometimes,
exactly.
but I guess the win loss gain isn't clear.
Yeah, it's for at least like someone our size.
Yeah,
it's.
I'm working 2 retail jobs right now.
The risk doesn't weigh out the reward. Fortunately, you can't go in there and be like, you can't be like a Dave Meltzer, and even if he is paying, be like, oh well, I have plenty of people subscribed to my website to get my exclusive podcast that'll cover it.
Exactly.
We're just relying on YouTube that cuts our money every month. Yeah, that's another hot take, but anyways.
Shout out to YouTube. Well, guys, to end off this week's Fightful Wrestling Weekly, brought to you not only by Sean Ross Sapp, who spends his hard-earned time writing these great weeklies, but also by everyone at Fightful.com. It's all a big effort over there, and I love them to death. So head over to Fightful.com, check them out, and you can also follow them on Twitter at Fightful Online. We're going to send you over to a clip from The List and ya boy. I mean, when it comes to 2-person podcasts, The List and your boy and the Pro Wrestling Unlimited podcast are like right here next to each other. I mean, we're we're fighting each other.
Yep.
But I love them, so we're going to send you over to a clip from them. And that's going to be it for us. We will see you guys later.
News and shit. So, first and foremost, so it took place in Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah.
Going in, they had made it clear no women can perform on the show, right? How'd you like the love seats that they had for all the executives? So they didn't have regular folding chairs in the crowd. They had love seats, like sofa,
People were moving them.
yeah.
Whoa.
And my wife watched a little bit with me, and she said, because let's be frank, all right? This was done for political reasons, right? The Saudi people that were there and the executives that were there, they don't give a shit about pro wrestling. It was done for political reasons. They want to come off progressive. Corey Graves even, because Corey Graves is such a corporate shill, he read something about, what was it, Vision 2020 or something?
Yeah.
And about how progressive Saudi Arabia has become. That's why they did it. It was completely propaganda based. Now, I don't blame WWE. They were paid a lot of money, and any entertainment entity would have done the same. So I don't blame them. But going in, they said no women. So what happened was on the big screens, they played that video that is promoting the single-branded pay-per-views where they're lip-syncing to the song, right? And a lot of the girls were in their ring gear, right? Meaning that a lot of the female talent were wearing almost bra and panties type attire.
Yeah.
That played on the screen in the arena. And I'm sure the producers, even though they should have known better, Sean, and I hope they were reprimanded, it probably slipped their mind for a second because it was playing on the network as well. So the Saudi Arabian government, and specifically the General Sport Authority, were pissed, right? And they issued an apology to the people, they said the viewers and attendees of the WWE event in Jeddah. They issued an apology, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I just want to read a few of the points that I thought were interesting. They said, the General Sport Authority would like to apologize to the viewers and attendees of the WWE event that took place in Jeddah over the indecent scene involving women that appeared as an ad before segment. It would like to confirm its total disapproval of this in the shadow of its commitment to eliminate anything that goes against the community's values. The authority has made sure to ban showing of any segment that involves women wrestling or any scenes related to it and stipulated that to the company. The authority also disapproved any promotional materials with pictures or videos showing women in an indecent way and emphasized our commitment to this rule. So I just want to make it clear, number one, they were not naked. Number two, there was no sexual acts taking place. They were wearing their ring gear, lip syncing on a microphone.
Yep.
But it's the culture, right? So that was the first kind of
Culture sucks.
Well,
Their culture
Yeah, I'm
shit.
totally with you.
That's
on
what it
that.
was. So that's the first thing that happened that I wanted to mention. That's number one. Number two, and I love having you in here, Nigel, because you're the world culture guy. So this is good. So number two, there was a segment on the show where they had a couple of wrestlers who portray themselves as Iranian wrestlers from Iran, right? One of them is Ari Daivari, who's on the roster currently. The other is his brother, Sean Daivari, who used to be on the roster. They brought him in just for this. They had a few Saudi wrestlers, although ironically enough, at least one of them was American. But there were Saudi wrestlers in the ring. The two Iranian wrestlers came out, waving the flag, and the Saudi guys beat them up, right? And that's how they ended the segment. One of those Iranian wrestlers, he's American too, but one of the Iranian wrestlers, Ari Daivari, claimed on social media that he got death threats after that segment. And he actually posted on social media, I was merely playing a character on television. It was pure entertainment. I apologize. Because, I actually did some research, Nigel.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm not a world of, political guy, really, but I did some research. So I know that there are strained relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia. There are strained relations between Saudi Arabia and Syria, which we're going to get to in a minute, Sean. And so that's why there was people pissed off that they have these two Iranian guys out there promoting Iran, essentially. So that caused some shit. Then there's a wrestler named Sami Zayn, who is now one of my favorites because he's freaking awesome as just an asshole heel. I love him. He is of Syrian descent, even though he's Canadian, and he's born and raised in Quebec, Canada, but he's of Syrian descent. Right. He was left off the show. And apparently it was requested to the company. Anybody, I don't know if they looked over the whole roster.
Any Yemeni wrestlers that they kicked off
the
card?
Well, he was left off. Then Finn Balor, and this is why sometimes, Sean, people just bitch because they feel they need to bitch, right? So Finn Balor at WrestleMania wore rainbow-themed attire to promote the gay and lesbian community, right?
Okay.
After WrestleMania, he didn't wear that attire again. He didn't wear it on Raw. He didn't wear it at the live events after WrestleMania. And he didn't wear it at the Greatest Royal Rumble. Because people like to bitch and moan, and because he didn't wear it at the Greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, people immediately shit on Finn Balor, thinking, oh, you're buying into the cultural problem, even though he didn't wear it after WrestleMania, Sean.
Yeah,
Right?
I think it was more mounting evidence than anything. Like, had those other issues not occurred,
Right.
I don't think that would have happened. But
Right.
it was just another. It was like another thing to point at and say, look.
Right, right. It was so interesting that there were so many events on one show. Michael Cole even referred to Sergeant Slaughter as the late great Sean.
My God.
So
My God.
one of the commentators referred to a live Hall of Fame wrestler as dead
Yeah.
on commentary.
This was a really long house show, and I was very pumped for it.
It was.
I thought that the card looked really, really good.
Yeah, it did.
But ultimately, I thought Sasha Banks versus Ruby Riott from Monday Night Raw this week was better than anything on that show.